Everyone knows the Volkswagen Type 2. That boxy, split-screen camper van has become a global icon. Printed on posters, plastered across festival merchandise, worshipped by an entire generation who never even rode in one. Ask most people to name the van that invented the small commercial vehicle as we know it, and they'll say Germany got there first. They'd be wrong. Years before the first Type 2 rolled out of Wolfsburg, a short, round-shouldered little van with sliding doors and a face like a friendly bulldog was already delivering the nation's bread, carrying its post, ferrying its telephone engineers, and, on a good summer's afternoon, selling ice cream to queues of children outside British schools. This was the Morris J-Type, and more than 70 years after it first appeared, it remains one of the most quietly important commercial vehicles this country ever built.
To understand why the J-Type mattered, you have to picture Britain in the years right after the Second World War. The country was exhausted. Money was tight, materials were rationed, and steel that should have gone into new vehicles was instead earmarked for rebuilding. And yet, business had to carry on. Bread still needed baking and delivering, letters still needed posting, shops still needed stocking. What the country needed wasn't a luxury. It was a small, cheap, honest workhorse that wouldn't break down and wouldn't break the bank.
Morris Commercial, already a trusted name in trucks and utility vehicles, set out to build exactly that. The result was unveiled at the 1948 Commercial Motor Show in London, and by 1949 it was in full production, badged the Morris Commercial J-Type. From the very first glance, it looked like nothing else on the road. Most vans of the era stuck the driver behind a long bonnet, the way a car would. The J-Type threw that layout out entirely, putting the driver almost directly above the front axle in what's called a forward control layout. It sounds like a small technical tweak. In practice, it meant a van barely bigger than a family car could swallow a cargo hold most rivals could only dream of. Morris's own advertising called it the big little van, and for once, the marketing men weren't exaggerating. Under that stubby bonnet sat a 1,476cc side-valve four-cylinder engine, borrowed from the contemporary Morris Oxford, producing a modest 36 horsepower through a 3-speed gearbox. On paper, unremarkable. On the pavements of post-war Britain, it was exactly right. Simple enough that a driver with a spanner and a Sunday afternoon could keep it running himself, which mattered enormously to small operators who couldn't afford a mechanic on the payroll. In 1957, Morris freshened things up with the JB, swapping in the newer 1,489cc BMC B-Series overhead valve engine and a 4-speed gearbox. Top speed crept up to around 50 or 55 miles per hour. Hardly thrilling, but more than enough to keep pace with Britain's roads at the time, and a noticeably easier van to live with on a long run.
It was a small thing, too. Just under 12 feet 9 inches long, standing at roughly 6 feet 9 inches tall. Yet it could still haul payloads of up to 100 hundredweight, over half a ton, while the van itself weighed little more than a small family saloon. And then there were the sliding cab doors, a detail drivers adored. In the cramped back streets and narrow mews of British towns, a conventional swinging door was a liability. Dent your neighbor's car, or worse, your own knuckles, every time you climbed out. The J-Type doors slid flush against the body, letting drivers park tight against a wall and step straight out without a second thought. Paired with a low loading floor that spared drivers' backs after the 40th parcel of the day, it's easy to see why it became a firm favorite on Britain's high streets. None of the vans were more familiar, though, than the ones in Post Office Green. The General Post Office bought more than 17,000 of them, the single largest fleet order the J-Type ever received, and fitted many with rubber wings instead of steel ones, cheaper to patch up after the inevitable scrape against a gatepost. For the best part of a decade, the sight of a J-Type nosing up a country lane, postman inside sorting the morning's letters, was simply what Tuesday looked like in Britain.
But the post office was only the beginning. Morris had the good sense to offer the bare chassis out to independent coach builders, and what came back was extraordinary. Pickups, tippers, minibuses, campers, ambulances, milk floats, mobile shops. And yes, those cheerful ice cream vans that still show up at British seaside towns to this day. Bakeries turned them into rolling ovens on wheels. Engineers turned them into mobile workshops. Cadbury and Sainsbury's ran fleets of them. So did the British Red Cross. Long before anyone had coined the phrase multi-purpose vehicle, the J-Type was already living that life several times over. The J-Type's charm even carried it well beyond Britain's shores, finding buyers in more than 20 countries, with Australia and New Zealand embracing it enough to set up local assembly lines of their own. Down in Australia, the National Roads and Motorists Association ran a fleet of 144 of them as roadside assistance vans, nicknamed, with typical Antipodean affection, the Mighty J's, reportedly covering close to 30,000.
Production finally wound down in early 1961 after more than 48,600 examples had rolled off the line, making way for the newer Morris J4. But the little van refused to simply vanish into history. It turned up battling Daleks on Doctor Who. It became instantly recognizable in its purple Cadbury Joymobile livery, and its shape proved so enduringly lovable that decades later it inspired the modern electric Morris JE, a 21st century tribute to a van that never really needed reinventing in the first place. The Morris J-Type was never the fastest, the flashiest, or the most talked about vehicle of its era. It didn't need to be. It simply turned up every single day and did the job. For the postman, the baker, the milkman, the ice cream seller, and the small business owner trying to keep Britain moving through some of its hardest years. That's not a bad legacy for a van nobody outside this country has ever heard of.
And if you enjoy hitting the pause button on time to discover the remarkable little machines that quietly kept Britain running, be sure to subscribe to Britain Pause. There's always another forgotten workhorse waiting just around the corner.